Let's stand, please, for the invocation with Reverend Von Gerhardt.
Thank you, Dr. Chairman Malone. May we bow our heads together? Lord our God, we pause to pray. We pray for our neighbors in pain and distress who are waiting to be seen in our emergency room. We pray for our patients and their families who hope for the test results to bring them good news. We pray for your hand of blessing upon those in our operating room who have placed their very lives in our hands. We pray for the babies, so fragile, so young, who are being supported in the NICU, and we ask for comfort for their parents who long to bring them home. We pray for all those who struggle in intensive care, patients and families who are so in need of our care and compassion. And we pray this hour for this, our hospital board, for wisdom and direction to guide Sarasota Memorial, our community hospital, as we provide comfort and mercy in time of need. These things, together, we pray. Amen.
Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance together.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the meeting to order of the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board on April 20th, 2015. I'd like to address this for our audience. Any citizen desiring to address the hospital board should turn in a speaker card to the board secretary. If the citizen comment pertains to an item on the agenda today, the comment will be heard early in this meeting. Otherwise, it will be heard toward the end. Speakers are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes. Vendors, suppliers, or other persons seeking hospital contracts awarded on a competitive basis are reminded that their ability to address the board may be restricted by the terms of the invitation for bid, request for proposal, or other purchasing criteria. Lastly, the board has established a claims adjustment review panel comprised of representatives of the board, the medical staff, administration, and legal counsel to review and negotiate the settlement of claims. Accordingly, the board will not entertain comments on or discuss or negotiate claims at this meeting. So I'm asking for approval of the orders of the day. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And now approval of the minutes of the meeting of March 16th, 2015.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And today we have a very special treat, and I know you're going to make the introductions, Dr. Fiorica, but Dr. Reed, one of our very own, our previous medical officer, is going to be our speaker today. So, Dr. Fiorica.
Yes, it's a pleasure. As most, if not everyone, knows Dr. Reed. Dr. Reed actually, what you may not know is he actually received his PhD in molecular biology at the University of California in Santa Barbara. Then he decided to go on to medical school and receive his MD degree. As you all know, he was the Vice President of Medical Affairs here at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. He was the Chief of Staff in 2004. He is an icon with the Bayside Behavioral Center and psychiatry here. But what he's going to talk about today is something we see I see frequently that we hear about, but we don't know the details, and that's with electroconvulsive therapy, the ECT therapy that we have and we offer to our patients here in Sarasota. Thank you, Dr. Reed.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I hear this is a very hard-nosed but fair group and very friendly, so I will now continue. We do this procedure here at this hospital. We do about 1,000 treatments a year, and a lot of people don't know that we do this, but it's a very effective treatment for fixing depression. And I will tell you briefly a little bit about the history. It was developed in the 1930s. It was developed about the same time that EKG was developed. There were 9 or 10 other treatments for psychiatry that were developed at that time, but none of them survived because none of them were effective. This one only survived because it was effective. Now, I was getting my training during the time that the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came out, and the people training me said, well, you can learn how to do this treatment called electroconvulsive therapy. I went and saw the movie and went, no, I don't think so. So I thought that was a bad idea. And then what happened was my neighbor's father, who was a really nice, happy, jovial guy, my neighbor and I used to work on each other's houses and help each other, got very depressed, was in the university hospital for 3.5 months, didn't get any better. I lost a lot of weight. He could only say 3 words, I am dead. He wouldn't talk or say anything else. Really a terrible case of depression. I went to see him with my neighbor, and he just didn't get better. And then ironically, of course, his insurance ran out, so they discharged him. But he was a veteran, so they sent him to the Veterans Hospital, and he was there a couple of weeks. I had to go there on an errand. I wasn't rotating there, but I went to his room to see him because I liked him and knew he was there in that hospital. And I walked in the room, and there he was, his old bright, cheery self. Hi, how are you? I mean, he was a lot less heavy. He was very thin, but he was happy and jovial as he had been previously. And so I was quite shocked after 3.5 months of no response, and so I found out what happened. And what happened was, as soon as he hit the door of the Veterans Hospital with that diagnosis and that history, they started ECT treatment. I thought, you know, maybe I better go back and look at this. And so that was about 30-some-odd years ago, and I've been doing that ever since. And it's been a good thing. We've pulled people here off of medical floors and out of ICU doing this treatment. So what are the indications for it? Major depression, mania, mixed affective states, dysthymia. If we have affective disorder secondary to a medical condition, or schizophrenia, secondary depression, or catatonia, it fixes all of those things. There's a lot of things it doesn't fix. It doesn't fix schizophrenia. It doesn't fix bipolar disease and so forth. It doesn't fix personality disorder. But it does fix these things. If I can get this to move. Typically, we give this because drug therapy has failed. People have tried all kinds of antidepressants, as happened to my neighbor's father, or when it's poorly tolerated. But in fact, there are other reasons we do this also. If someone is withering, which is what happens when we end up doing people in the hospital, they're having a failure to thrive, they have a feeding tube, they're basically in the process of dying, but there's no medical reason for that to be happening. It's because they're depressed, and at that point we will do this treatment and it's effective. When the risk is less than other treatments, people have some medical conditions where the medicines we use for depression are riskier than doing this treatment. If the previous episode of depression has responded really well to ECT, but not to other things, we'll do it. Or if it's the patient's preference, or if the patient's, for example, highly suicidal, and we can't wait a while for the medicine to work. So this is where we do this treatment. We do it in the post-anesthesia care unit. We do it early in the morning. We start about 7 o'clock. We have to do this because once anesthesia disappears with the surgeons, we can't get them back. So we want anesthesia there. The person comes, hops into bed. We give them an IV. They get 2 medicines, one to put them to sleep, one to relax their muscles. They're asleep for about 5 minutes. Dr. Thomas or myself, there are 2 of us here that do this. I'll come back to that in a minute. Put electrodes on the person's scalp and attach them. Well, first of all, we monitor everything, just to tell you. We monitor all their vital signs, including end-tidal CO2, oxygen, and so forth. And then we use this very fancy machine that we hook the person up to these electrodes. Now, if you're an engineer, I would tell you this is a square wave pulse generator. And that all the knobs you see on the bottom under the screen, they all do something. They vary the width and the height and all of this stuff about the pulses that we're going to give. This all happens, of course, within a second or 2. So we push the button on this machine. It sends some current between the 2 electrodes in the scalp, and it doesn't go elsewhere in the body. We do people with pacemakers or defibrillators or whatever. It doesn't go anywhere near those, so that's not a problem. Small amount of that electricity touches what are called bridging veins that go between the outside of the skull and the inside. And some of that electricity touches the brain and sets off brainwave seizure activity. We want that seizure activity to last between 30 to 60 seconds. The reason is we know if it's less, let's say it was 15 seconds, we could do about 50 treatments and the person would never get better. We could do as many as you wanted, in fact. But if we do it correctly and have more than about 25 or 30 seconds, the treatment works. Our average is about 6 treatments for people to get better, and then things are okay. So that machine, just to point out to you, is the state-of-the-art fancy machine. It was provided to us by the Iserman Foundation, through our hospital foundation, and I just want to give them credit for that because it's really nice to have state-of-the-art equipment to do this. So people often ask, so when you do this treatment, does it cause damage? Does it cause harm to the person? The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. There was a lot of research done a long time ago. As you see, it was 1994, and it was done all across the country by National Institutes of Health. They looked at people that had seizures induced all kinds of ways. They did autopsies, they did MRIs, they did everything you could think of, chemical analysis. There's no credible evidence that there's any brain damage from this kind of treatment. So how does it work? So there's a part of the brain called the hippocampus. And when I went to, another terrible, this is what's awful when you're that old. When I went to medical school, we were taught that you were born with a certain number of nerve cells in your brain, and then they just disappeared with time as you got older. You know, if you didn't drink alcohol, you lost 30,000 a day. If you did drink, you lost 60,000 a day. But when you start out with 10 to the 13th neurons, they last a while. So in any case, it turns out that's all not true. We do make new nerve cells, but only in certain parts of the brain. And one of the parts of the brain in which we make nerve cells is called the hippocampus. And it's that little gold part that you can see right there. It's kind of shiny. And what's interesting is that part of the brain is important in short-term memory. It lays down your short-term memory for you. It sends that memory somewhere else in the brain, but tells you the address of where it is so you can get it back. In any case, what you see happening is when people are depressed, you get cell death in that part of the brain. So cells start dying off more. And stress chemicals, and we know what some of them are in the brain, will do that, and the person gets depressed. So treatment can enhance the synthesis of new neurons. This is a theory now. We've not proven this or hooked up all the dotted lines here. But in any case, what we would say, what's appealing, is that the production of new nerve cells reduces depression and its symptoms, because when the number of nerve cells in that area of the brain goes back to normal, the person's not depressed anymore. Now, I have to be clear about one thing about that, which is that that's a correlation. And remember, in How to Lie with Statistics, the number of heart attacks in the United States is dependent on the number of tons of pig iron made in Britain every year, right? So it's the same kind of correlation. What we see is when we have an increase in the number of neurons, which only happens when we treat, and it goes back to normal, the person's not depressed. But I don't know what the dotted line is to get there. So it may go to something else that actually is more important, and that's a result. In any case, it's kind of an appealing hypothesis. I will tell you the things that do that, which are the important ones for us, are antidepressants and ECT treatment. These other things are just chemicals and important things that we measure in the brain, but they're not clinically important at this time. How well does it work? Actually, we have a rate here that's really high. We say 70 to 100%, but we're probably in the 90 percentile. 90% or better of our patients get better. About half our patients just go on and they may or may not get depressed in the future. This doesn't cure people forever. They could be fine now. We've treated them, they're okay, but 10 years from now they could get depressed again. We have nothing that we do that says they won't get depressed 10 years from now. So it's not a curative kind of treatment in that sense. However, what does happen to about the other half of the people that we treat is somewhere between 1 and 4 months after we've treated them, they start to have the depression come back. And I don't know why that happens, but when it does, we tell them to phone us right away. If it was 2 months, for example, when that happened, they would phone us, we'd bring them in the next day and do one treatment, and they would be just as good as they were after the initial 6. And that would last for probably a couple of months. So I tell them, come back in 7 weeks, not 8 weeks, and I will give you one treatment again, and we'll do that for a while. And it might take 4 or 5 treatments over a period of 8 or 10 months. At that point, the person doesn't need any more, but I think that's a drawback to the treatment. The drawback being that we have to do a little more than that initial sequence. So the other thing that happens is people who have repeated depressions often can be put on medication to stop the relapse. And overall, I would say it's a safe, effective procedure. It's the only survival, as I told you, of all the things that were invented to deal with depression. I must tell you one other thing, which is that I didn't talk about side effects. There's really only a couple of side effects. The anesthesia side effects are nausea or headache if they happen, and they don't happen very often. When they do, if it happens, it'll happen the first treatment. And on the second treatment and everything thereafter, we can pre-treat them so it doesn't happen. We treat them the first time, but we can avoid it even happening in the second treatment or beyond. And then the other part is that there used to be a lot of press about the fact that short-term memory was affected by ECT. Isn't that interesting that short-term memory was affected and the area of the brain we think is involved in depression does what? Lays down short-term memory. So it's related. But I will tell you, in the past 5 years, with all the improvements in the machines and the way we do this, we hardly ever see that anymore. So while a long time ago it used to be a problem, it's not now. Something that started off as a very barbaric, difficult kind of treatment, years, 1930s, really evolved into something very safe and effective, and we're learning how it works. So that's my presentation.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, Dr. Reed.
Yes.
What happens when you have dementia and you do that too?
That's interesting. What many people, it doesn't happen to everyone, but many people when they're depressed have memory problems because of the depression. And I've actually had people come into my office and say, I think I've got Alzheimer's disease, and they don't, they're depressed. If you take care of the depression, their memory's fine. What happens with Alzheimer's patients is some of them will have not only Alzheimer's problems with memory, but they have additional memory difficulties from the depression. When we treat that, that piece goes away. Unfortunately, they're still left with Alzheimer's. But it looks like their memory's improved, but it's only improved in the sense of that piece of it that was due to the depression. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. Thank you. That was a great presentation. How is someone referred to you, and can you say approximately how many people that this treatment maybe is seen on an annual basis, or how often you see them?
Yeah, we probably have 160 to 200 people a year that we treat, and they get referred by medical physicians all over the community. We get referrals from other psychiatrists and psychologists as well, by the way. We have minimum, it used to be that there was a whole bunch of things you had to do this treatment, but it's so effective now and so safe that we need to basically have a medical release saying what diagnoses the person has. They have to see a medical doctor within the past couple of months, and they need some very simple blood tests like a CBC and a chem profile, and that's it. Yeah. So.
Was there another question? Yes, Darryl.
Dr. Reed, thank you so very much for your excellent presentation.
Okay.
Couldn't ask for any better. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I do have a question, though.
Sure.
You started out with your presentation by talking about nerve cell death and nerve cell regeneration. Have you got any evidence that stroke victims can be helped by this?
There's some discussion about that, and I don't even know that that's due to nerve cell production, but maybe reformation of synapses and stuff that people are talking about. So I can't give you a definitive answer about that. The other problem is there are a lot of parts of the brain that don't make new nerve cells. So it's variable and depending on which part of the brain you're in.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again so very much. And we'll move on now to the April Excel winner, Julie Ennis, lead speech pathologist in the speech therapy department.
Julie, come on up. So Julie is the Excel recipient for the month of April 2015. Come stand over here, Julie, so they can make sure they see you. Julie is a lead speech pathologist in our speech therapy department. She's been an employee of SMH since December of 1997. Julie's nominations describe her as hardworking, upbeat, and positive, but most of all, genuine. So Julie, what I'm going to do is, you had a lot of people nominate you, and they all made comments about you, okay? So I'm going to read off some of the things people said about you. We screened them. Don't get nervous, all right? So here's a couple comments from her peers. I have so much respect for Julie that I would be disappointed with myself to ever let her down. There's no pretense or agenda in dealing with her. She truly is completely honest in every conceivable way. She's the first one in and the last one out. She's a huge team player and an integral part of the rehab team and service. Julie has initiated team building activities within the department, as well as acknowledges special events to boost morale and create positive atmosphere. Julie frequently asks, "What can I do to make your job easier?" and means it sincerely, something I've never experienced in 2 careers spanning 2 decades. Julie goes out of her way for staff accepting challenges and handling situations without complaint. She spreads herself across multiple departments to assist in productivity. She makes the newest members of our staff feel like family, providing them with confidence and support to start strong. She's ultimately a pure rock star. So congratulations, Julie, for everything. No. You're not off yet.
Almost, Julie. Well, we do have, after all that goodness, we do have a plaque from the board for you, and it's an employee recognition program of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System, Excel recipient, April 2015. The hospital board and administrative staff of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System are grateful to all employees who constantly enhance the quality of a patient's stay by making an extra effort in their daily activities, and it's obvious you've been doing that. The Excel program is designed to recognize employees who have distinguished themselves by superior performance and attention to others. Individuals recognized are models of excellence who strengthen the quality of patient care and image of the Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System in the community. The hospital board and administrative staff are pleased to present you, Julie Innes, with the Excel Award for April 2015 in recognition of your demonstrated courtesy and caring attitude and contributions towards excellence at Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. And it's signed by David Veringer and Dr. Margaret G. Malone. Congratulations.
Thank you. Julie, would you like to say a couple words? Yeah, you would.
Speech pathologist has to give a speech.
Yeah, that's right.
I have to, even though I do more with swallowing, but I'm very humbled by this award, so thank you. I couldn't do it without the amazing hospital. Obviously, I've been here for 18 years, and it's a place that I want to come to work.
You take this bag.
Okay.
We're not going to let you have your plaque yet.
Okay.
We have to embarrass you in front of management council,
Of course,
okay?
yes.
All right. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
All right.
And we'll move on now to the March Excel winner, Barbara Wingert, RN Oncology Unit.
Barbara, come on up. You have to stand right here.
I'd have to
so you
stand
get
close,
everybody-
too.
Right. All right, here, let me maneuver around so I can get your stuff here. So Barbara Wingert is our Excel recipient for the month of March 2015. Barbara is a registered nurse on the oncology unit holding a BSN and an MSN. She's been an employee of SMH since June of 2010. Barbara's nominations make it clear she is professional and engaged in her position at all times. So here's a few of the highlights. So once again, these are from your people, okay? We've screened them again. All right. Barbara consistently presents and demonstrates the value and impact of professional nursing practice and evidence-based practice. She keeps her focus on patient safety and quality of care. Barbara provides positive reinforcement to new employees and has new ideas to make her unit run better. She has implemented lab charts, acronym charts, and organizational sheets to help new nurses. She also assists in creating a chart for the patients to help them trend their lab values for their own educational purposes. Barbara is full of suggestions and a superb resource for all staff members. She's an excellent mentor and preceptor. Ultimately, Barbara is a champion for change. She is a leader because she exemplifies professional excellence, transforms delivery of care we provide our patients, and shares her knowledge and ideas to improve outcome. A patient wrapped up in a thank you note saying, "Thank you so much for making my father's last days so comfortable. You are truly an angel. We needed for nothing. You are where you belong, and you have such a special gift. We will never forget you." Congratulations. So, Joe?
Barbara, congratulations. And since this was the Excel Award for March, and we just went, so I'm going to take a little shortcut here and just say, the hospital board and administrative staff are pleased to present you Barbara Wingert, please. My eyes are not focusing here. With the Excel Award for March 2015 in recognition of your demonstrated courtesy and a caring attitude and contributions towards excellence of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. Signed by David Veringer, CEO, and Margaret G. Malone, our chair of the Sarasota County Public Hospital Board. Congratulations so much. Everything you do.
It's an honor to get this award, and it's an honor to do something that I think that I was just meant to do as a nurse. And I love working at Sarasota Memorial Hospital, and I love taking care of oncology patients and helping them with their journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
And so next, we have the second quarter leadership award, Lisa Baumgartner, Manager, Education, Professional Development, and Research.
Lisa. Okay, so we have the recipient of our Sarasota Memorial Hospital's Leadership Award for the second quarter is Lisa Baumgartner. Lisa's been an employee of SMH since January 2008. She's a manager of education, professional, and development and research. So Lisa, here's a couple comments from your peers. Lisa's a model of efficiency. She delegates tasks appropriately with autonomy and authority for individuals to make their best contributions to the organization. When Lisa delegates a project, she maintains focus and follows up to ensure completion in a timely manner. Her ability to mentor individuals at various levels of understanding speaks volumes about her excellent leadership style. Lisa is a true transformational leader that empowers her staff to be independent and self-motivated while providing the support they need at the same time. Lisa implemented weekly briefs every Monday morning where the education department as well as the educators from across the house can get together and discuss their weekly priorities and projects. She is a true advocate for her staff. She makes everyone feel special. She has a knack for identifying the best qualities in each of her employees and mentoring them so they can grow to their highest potential. Lisa's education, experience, and generous spirit make her an exceptional leader. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything. There you go, Joe.
As you can see, I have an eye chart here, Lisa, so bear with me.
I need one too.
Yeah, but anyway, SMH CS Leadership Award, a leadership recognition program for Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. The hospital board and administrative staff of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System are grateful to all leaders who constantly enhance the quality of patient stay by making an extra effort in their daily activities. Inherent to that leadership is the ability to enhance employee satisfaction and act as a role model to inspire our staff to become the very best that they can be. As that role model, you have developed a department that is a benchmark of excellence for the entire organization. The leadership program is designated to recognize leaders who have distinguished themselves by superior performance and attention to others. Individuals recognized are models of excellence who strengthen the quality of patient care, staff satisfaction, and the image of Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System in the community. The hospital board and administrative staff present to you Lisa Baumgardner with the Sarasota Healthcare Leadership Award for the second quarter 2015 in recognition of your demonstrated leadership abilities and contributions towards excellence at Sarasota Memorial Healthcare System. Same today by David Varinger, CEO, and Dr. Margaret Malone, Chair of Sarasota County Public Health Board. Congratulations and well-deserved. Thank you very much.
We're going to embarrass you in front of Management Council with this, but you get to make a couple comments.
I know I'm going to get up here and get tongue-tied, but first I want to say thank you, and I am humbled and honored by the award, because to do what a job to me feels like it's so easy most days, because I get the opportunity to lead such a wonderful group of caring and compassionate and professional individuals. I do have to just correct one thing, because I want you to know I was almost born here, because I started here in 1986. I started here as a new graduate nurse. I moved here from North Carolina, and I'm the happy recipient of our generous tuition reimbursement policy for my master's and my doctorate degree. So Sarasota Memorial has truly supported me with wonderful leaders and mentoring experiences and educational opportunities, and I hope this is my way of giving back. You've inspired me to do more. Thank you. No problem. I just want you to know I've been here a long time.
We'll correct that. We'll correct that. Sorry.
Thank you all. We'll move on to the report of the medical staff. Dr. James Fiorica, Chief of Staff.
Yes, I have 5 action items that I'd like the board to consider. The following items were recommended for approval by the Medical Executive Committee. The first is the approval of the trauma director's duties and of Alan Brockhurst as the medical director of the trauma services.
I move approval of the trauma director duties and Alan Brockhurst as the medical director for trauma services as recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next is the annual review of clinical contracts documents.
I move approval of the list of clinical contracts as recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Third is the approval of the referral labs, methods of point-of-care and reflex testing, and critical notification times for critical lab values recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
I move approval of the referral labs, methods of point care and reflex testing, and the critical notification time for critical lab values as recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Next is approval of the privileging criteria for the Diamondback 360 coronary orbital arthrectomy system.
I move approval of the privileging criteria for the Diamondback 360 coronary orbital arthrectomy system as recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And finally, approval criteria for deep brain stimulation intracranial electrode placement.
I move approval of the privileging criteria for placement of intracranial electrodes for deep brain stimulation as recommended by the Medical Executive Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fiorica. So the auxiliary report, Ms. Dottie Ziegler, auxiliary president.
Technology limited. Thank you, Madam Chairman. The auxiliary continues to support the healthcare organization providing new services. It was our pleasure to provide full staffing to the Cape Surgery Center. I'd like to share some pictures with you from the first day from the day of orientation. This first picture is a group picture, and you can see in the background it says, "Welcome back, Cape Volunteers." They had a cake because they were very happy to get the volunteers back. This is a group picture of part of the training. And wheelchair training, which is really important. They have to take patients to the back sometimes in wheelchairs, take them out for discharge. Welcome back, Cape Volunteers. For any of you that might not know, the Cape has been, if the Cape is not owned by Sarasota Memorial, then the volunteers that were there have to be taken out because the volunteers are part of Sarasota Memorial Hospital. So they had them and then they didn't have them, and then when we bought the Cape back, then we put our volunteers back in, and they were very happy to have them back. Our thanks to Donna Scott, Joanna Sable, and Debbie Garrett for their work in developing the program and doing such an excellent job and making the volunteers feel welcome. April 12th through 18 is National Volunteer Appreciation Week. The auxiliary is grateful to the hospital for the many thank you potluck lunches and individual recognition events that they had. The theme this year is Volunteers Are a Magnetic Force. The gift was a magnet that identifies the individual as an SMH volunteer, and we hope if we can get some of these out on our cars, that people will think of Sarasota Memorial as a good place to come and volunteer. The Auxiliary Board thanks Lori Liang and Alex Quarles for their last Thursday, April 16th. Lori did an excellent job at our meeting explaining the current issues facing healthcare today, and Alex explained the many ways the Healthcare Foundation supports SMH and the community, and we discussed opportunities for mutual support and how we can come together to do that and not overlap with our support. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And the Sarasota Memorial Healthcare Foundation, Alex Quarles, president.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dottie. That was a lot of fun coming to visit with you. Enjoyed very much and look forward to opportunities where we can collaborate. All I have really to share with you today is a listing in this green sheet that I have shown you of the current grants that we have provided to you. And if you go down to almost to the bottom, total grants as of 3/31/2015 is $504,313. I think it's important to note that those are the grants that I personally can approve because they're less than $25,000, but I think you're going to see how many departments and how many nurses actually receive the opportunity to get continuing education in the various departments that we support on an ongoing basis, as well as some of the sponsorships that we do individually or jointly with Sarasota Memorial. Thursday is our last board meeting until September, So you'll see the pending grants at the very bottom, for which we will be deciding on Thursday. And finally, it's something that just came in today that I approved, and that was for bulletproof vests for $500 for our safety group. And that's all I have to report, other than May 1 is golf tournament. So hope to see you there. If not, maybe at the reception. And thank you very much. Oh, one personal final thing. I debated on whether I was going to share this or not. But about 10 days ago, my daughter had emergency back surgery. Within 12 hours, she was brought into Sarasota Memorial for her surgery, and she's in her mid-20s, late 20s. She looks like she's 40 today, but I went in specifically without any badges or any identification, and I have to say that her experience was absolutely outstanding, from surgery to anesthesia to follow-up to the room care to everything. And she's doing very, very well, thanks to everybody and all the great work that is being done by the staff and so forth here. So she's well on her road to recovery. So thank you, Sarasota Memorial, for doing such a great job and taking care of my baby. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that, Alex. And thank you and the foundation for all you do to help us meet the high standards and quality care that we do here. So the Secretary's report, Mr. Tom Towler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the board agenda for May in front of me. On Tuesday, the 5th of May, we have 8 o'clock, the PSI board, 9 o'clock, the Quality Committee, 10 o'clock, the Finance Committee, and 11 o'clock, the board chair, the board luncheon, excuse me. Close.
Wondered what I was going to be doing at 11.
On Monday, the 18th, we have at 11 o'clock, review of finances. At 1 o'clock, the board, public board meeting. That's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. And the Treasurer's report, Mr. Joe DiVirgilio.
We have one item today, and I'd like to propose the following motion. I move approval of the bad debts and charity care for the month ending March 31st, 2015, in the amount of $13,861,000.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The operations report, we'll start with Mr. Bill Wojin, our Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have the financial highlights for March 2015. We're now 6 months or halfway through our fiscal year. And so for the system operating revenue, for the month of March, we had operating revenue of $60,279,000 compared to a budget of $53,278,000. For fiscal year to date, again 6 months, $315,295,000 actual compared to a budget of $290,973,000. The system's expenses for the month of March, $53,137,000 compared to a budget of $49,783,000. Fiscal year to date, total expenses of $300,042,000 compared to a budget of $289,309,000. For the system's operating income in the rating agency format, excuse me, for the month of March, $9,813,000, which equates to an operating margin of 15.3%, compared to a budget of $6,202,000, or an operating margin of 10.9%. For fiscal year to date, operating income of $31,508,000, for an operating margin of 9.3%, compared to a budget of $17,917,000, operating margin of 5.7%. These are 6-month year-to-date statistics for the hospital. Average daily occupancy, 451 patients, compared to a budget of 394 patients. Admissions, 13,889, compared to a budget of 13,596. And so far, our length of stay is 5.03, days, compared to last year at this point, 4.54. The hospital surgery cases for the 6 months, 9,961, compared to a budget of 9,571. Our births, 1,599, compared to a budget of 1,464. The hospital's outpatient registrations for the 6 months, 214,351, compared to a budget of 215,018. Emergency Care Center registrations, 58,790, compared to a budget of 52,811. And for the 6 months, our total case mix index, 1.72, and for Medicare patients, 1.92. Madam Chair, that concludes my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. And so now Ms. Lori Lang, Chief Operating Officer.
Madam Chairman, member of the board, thank you for this opportunity for me to present the operational report. I'd like to begin with construction. For EC Critical Care Pod, the board approved a project to install new booms, lighting, flooring, casework, fixtures, and finishes in the critical care tower pods. And you can see from this slide, it shows the before, the during, and then the finished product. And I'm happy to say that this project came in under the $2 million budget. Moving on to the 6th floor critical care tower sterile processing. We have just completed adding a 4th sterilizer. And we all know we've had increased surgical volume. And just to understand how many trays we sterilize a year, in fiscal year 12, we sterilized 97,000 trays. In fiscal year 14, that number went up to 136,000, and this year we're annualized to be at 140,000 trays that we're sterilizing. And in this first picture, that's what a tray is. So that's a lot of trays that go through those processors. When we had 3, we were continuously running the sterilizers 24 hours, 7 days a week. And the manufacturers actually recommend that they have 6 to 8 hours of downtime every day. So you can see that that was causing problems, and it was actually impacting our OR schedule because we were dependent on the sterilization schedule to make sure that we were adequately had the trays for the cases. So the 4th sterilizer has increased our flexibility with the OR scheduling, and therefore we're not dependent on the sterilization schedule. The installation was completed in 4 weeks, and we came under budget of the $258,000. And in the second picture, you can see the first 3 sterilizers, and where the red arrow is where we put the 4th. Moving on to trauma rooms in the critical care area of the emergency department. Currently, the ECC and the critical care area is under renovation to accommodate our trauma needs for medication units, new lighting, dictation, and a scrub sink. This is phase 1 of a multi-phase project, and it is expected to be completed on May 1st, and we will do so under the budget of $3.6 million, or the first phase of that. I'm happy to update you on the rehab hospital. We have received the ACA approval footprint of the building and locations of the structural support. So no pun intended, but that is now set in stone and can't be changed. The variance of the setback we've received approval by the city for the setback of 5 feet versus the current setback of 6 inches. The demolition of Redder will begin in June with an anticipated completion occupancy date of December 16th, 2016, and this total project is $46 million. Moving into the ambulatory arena, St. Armand's Urgent Care Center. This is the rendering of that building. The community workshop was held at City Hall on April 8th, and we had representatives from the St. Armand's Residents Association, Longboat Key Foundation, and St. Armand's business owners all were in attendance and were all overwhelmingly supportive of this project. Their only concern was parking, and we were able to assure them that we have ample parking to meet the needs of our patients and our staff. Radiology. This is a picture of our 3T MRI. It has been ordered and should arrive within 4 months, as they are making it specifically to our specifications. We are very excited about expanding the service to our new location off of Bee Ridge and Cattleman. We are hoping to start seeing patients on October 1st of this year, and this project will provide access for patients, for physicians and their patients, to the highest level of imaging technology currently available on the market. Pharmacy, the 340B program. On January 1st, Sarasota Memorial Hospital enrolled in the federal 340B program, which is only available to organizations that have a certain, or that meet a certain threshold of serving an outpatient underserved number. This is an outpatient-only program that provides significant discounts for the cost of drugs used in the setting. However, to meet the requirements of this program, these drugs must be tracked and stored separately from all other drugs. Workflow processes and technology for tracking have been put into place so that we have achieved full compliance. The good news is we anticipate approximately $100,000 of savings for drug cost every month. Gallup Great Workplace Award. As mentioned earlier by David, Sarasota Memorial has received the Gallup Great Workplace Award last week. We believe that when employees are engaged and committed to the hospital's mission, they personally own their role in quality and the patient's experience. Gallup agrees with this philosophy and has recognized that Sarasota Memorial Hospital is indeed a great place to work, which has fostered and created an environment where people want to work, and more importantly, where they want to do their best work. We join an elite group of over 40 organizations that have earned this very distinguished honor in 2015. Just to mention a few, the Hyatt Hotels, Wells Fargo, Adventist Health, Stryker, Nationwide Insurance, and a few number of major international companies. Madam Chairman, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions for? If not, we'll move on. There are no board reports, so we'll move to committee reports. And the Audit Committee, Mr. Darrell Henry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Audit Committee met on April 2nd, 2015 at 12:20 p.m. The minutes of the January 2015 meeting were approved as submitted. Mark Thornton, Director of Audit Services, introduced the representatives of Bobbitt Pittenger, who presented the financial statement audit of the SMH Healthcare Retirement Plan. Turns out to be there were no recommendations for changes, no statements, so the audit was perfect. The committee unanimously recommended full board approval of the Bobbitt Pittenger Healthcare Retirement Plan audit. Therefore, I move acceptance of the Bobbitt Pittenger audit of SMH Healthcare Retirement Plan as recommended by the Audit Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes. Yes. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah. Madam Chair, Mark Thornton also gave the Audit Services second quarter update, including the construction audit, security audit of the pediatric unit, and the drug diversion program. I hope most of you remember what those topics were. I find the drug diversion audit to be particularly spectacular because he has managed to find holes in the system where drugs were being diverted, external hospital use. He's managed to plug those holes. Thank you very much, Mark. Well done. I'd like you all to commend Mark Thornton for his outstanding work on these audits. And the meeting was adjourned at 1 p.m. Thank you, Mr. Thornton. That concludes my presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think my memory about the drug diversion was that there were a few things that could have the process improved. There was not a huge problem, and so it was even harder to notice these few little things because they weren't all that obvious. So thank you for your work. The Governance Effectiveness Committee will move on to Ms. Alex Miller, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Governance Effectiveness Committee was held on April 3rd. I have been serving as chair of the Investment Committee in addition to this committee with the recent appointment of Tram Hudson to the board, and given his extensive background in finance and banking, it was decided to appoint Tram as chair of the Investment Committee. Prior to his appointment to the board, Tram was serving as a community member on the Investment Committee, which now presents a vacancy for that position. The Governance Committee reviewed the resumes we had on file and noted that none had the very specific background required by the Investment Committee's sharp focus on investments and investment banking. And due to the important nature of this committee, it was decided we would place an ad in the paper to seek additional applicants. Therefore, this topic will be reviewed at the committee meeting in June. Also at that committee meeting, Bob Strausser was nominated and voted to serve as Assistant Treasurer by the committee. So I have a motion. I move appointment of Robert Strausser as Assistant Treasurer as recommended by the Governance Effectiveness Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Finally, we had a discussion regarding the results of the 2014 board self-assessment. The committee reviewed the results, which indicated strong consensus among board members of the overall effectiveness of the board. The board's scores were very strong in comparison to other boards participating in the same self-assessment survey. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And moving on to the Mission and Planning Committee, Mr. Greg Carter, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Mission and Planning Committee met on April 2nd. We started with the ECC waiting room expansion, and David Verender discussed the current state of the ECC and its history. And with season winding down, it's time to move forward, and he discussed the need for expansion, the project plans, funding sources, expenses, approved selections, and projected timeline. He then discussed the state of the reception area and provided a patient experience graph noting the scores are trending upward. And increased census graphs were shown, which also indicate the need for expansion of the waiting area. Then Tom Perigo discussed the proposed project scope, which will increase the waiting area to 50 seats and upgrade the finishes to the courtyard tower standards. The project completion is expected to be summer of 2015. And at this time, I move approval of the allocation of capital funds for post moves to the ECC waiting room expansion project in the amount not to exceed $980,000 as recommended by the Mission and Planning Committee.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? Not all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. The next item was the selection committee on the MRI at Cattleman, and we had contractors and the architects and engineers. And from that meeting, I move approval of recommendations for the general contractors and architects, engineers for the Cattleman Road MRI project as follows. For general contractor, first place, PHM General Contractors. Second, DeAngelis Diamond Healthcare Group. Third, Fred M. Starling Incorporated. For the architects and engineers, first was Gresham Smith and Partners, Carlston Studios PRA, and Flad Architects.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item was the selection committee for the OR expansion. And those results, at this time, I move approval of the recommendations for the general contractors and architects and engineers for the OR expansion as follows. General contractor, first place, Skanska. Second, DeAngelis Diamond Healthcare Group. Third, Creative Contractors, Inc. And for architect and engineering firm, first was Fled Architects. Second was Studio Plus, Carlson Studios. And third was Akai Associates, Inc., as recommended by the selection committees established for the purpose of evaluating and ranking the applicants.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion?
Comment, please.
Yes, Mr. Henry.
I'd like everybody to remember that we worked on these selections in executive session, and I'd like to give Mr. Carter and his committee high kudos for the work they did to get us to this point. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Henry, I'm not sure what you mean by executive session.
Yeah, they're open to the public.
Okay, I stand corrected.
So
I've
they,
been corrected before, it's twice in my life.
but they did excellent work. We all agree on that.
Yeah, I
Thank
would-
you
I
for
would
your
accept correction
comment.
on that one.
They did excellent work in the publicly noticed meetings for that purpose.
Yes. So we have a motion and a second, and then all those, are there any additional comments or discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
And finally, our robotics program update. Peter Taylor reported on the robotics marketing campaign that's been running and will continue through Easter. SMH has 26 surgeons in 6 specialties with 3,750 surgeries. Peter also showed one of the TV spots featuring Dr. Fiorica. He also showed billboard ads, newspaper ads, and the lecture series. Other media include SMH Today, press releases, organic advertising online, and paid advertising on Google and Facebook. And I'd like to say that Peter and his group really keep up on our image to the public. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, can I make a correction, and this is my fault? In the second motion that Mr. Carter made, there is a misprint in the written motion that he very unintentionally carried forward, and it was my error. The second ranked person for architects and engineers under the general contractors and architects and engineers for the OR expansion is just Studio Plus. The Carlson Studios PRA was carried over from the last one, so the second ranked item is Studio Plus. Just for purposes of the record, I just want to clarify that, and that's my fault. Sorry about that.
We don't have to
You don't have
redo
to do
anything
anything.
with that.
It wasn't an executive session either, huh?
No. Thank you. So
That concludes my report.
thank you
Madam
very
Chair.
much. We'll move on now to the Quality Committee, Mr. Bob Strasser, Chairman.
Madam Chair. The Quality Committee meets in closed session. Consequently, I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you very much. So we're,
Madam Chair?
yes,
Can I interrupt here?
Absolutely.
Before David gives his report, my sister had a medical emergency this weekend, is in the hospital in California, and I need to catch a flight at 5:30 in Tampa. I wanted to wait so that everything that was needed to vote, that I would be here for that. But may I be excused from the remainder of the board meeting?
absolutely, and thank you so much for coming in. Our thoughts are with you and your sister. So the President's report, David Verrinder, President and CEO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to start today with our year-to-date March 2015 leader report card, and start with the service pillar and our HCAPS number. We have a goal of hitting for the year 9 out of 11 of our indicators at the 50th percentile or better, and I'm happy to report year-to-date we are hitting 9 out of those 11. In the outpatient side, we have a goal of hitting 83rd% of likelihood of recommending, and I'm happy to report we're exceeding that by a little bit and hitting 84%. In the people pillar, we have merits on time Our goal is to have 95% of our merits on time done. We are a little short of that right now, coming in at 91%, but continuing to make up ground from earlier in the year. Our turnover rate has a goal of 16%, and we've had a little bit of fluctuation up and down on this, and I'm happy to report that we have moved down this past 30 days, and we're now at 13% overall rate. In the quality pillar, our organization percent of patient safety readiness, we have a goal of being 95% or higher. I'm happy to report we continue to be very close to 100% and be at 99%. Our infection prevention, which is our combined overall standardized infection rate, we have a goal being below 0.195. Of course, 1.0 being a national average. I'm happy to report we're exceeding that goal and being at a 0.91. Organizational finance, as Bill Wojin has already reported, we have a goal of our budget of 4.4%, and I'm happy to report that we're on track for hitting a 6.4% operating margin. Growth pillar, we have our goal of on an inpatient admission number being 26,308, which is our budget. We are slightly above that at 26,595. And in outpatient registrations, we have a goal of hitting 657,000, and we are above that right now at 669,000. So moving on into the service to do a little bit deeper dive into HCAHPS. What you have here is for the last several months of our activity, year-to-date column being the one in yellow on the left-hand side at 9 out of 11. We have taken a bit of a hit in the past month of March, where you see on the far right-hand side of having 5 out of 11, which represents discharges in January of this past year. So we do have teams working on that and continuing to put focus there. Next page on our HCAHPS just simply shows our year-to-date number, which is 9 out of 11, which is what I had previously reported. In our likelihood of recommending, which is our outpatient indicator, you do see we have departments. We have a goal of being at the 83rd or better. We're at the 84th percentile. We definitely have some departments on the far left that we are trying to move to the middle, and departments in the middle that we are trying to move to the far right. But we continue to be directionally correct as an organization. Jumping into some more people, as Lori Lang reported a minute ago, SMH was awarded the annual Gallup Great Workplace Award, which is just a fantastic recognition for this organization, one we did not realize that we were going to be competitive with. And so just a great thank you to all the leaders of this organization, all the way from the board down to our managers and supervisors and our staff who continue to be engaged day in and day out. Something that really we know that engaged employees end up having a better outcome for our patients at the end of the day. So the more and more engagement we can have, the better. Staying in the people area, our corporate volunteers, as everyone knows, volunteer for tons of things all throughout the area. But earlier this month, SMH corporate volunteers helped at the Luminaria ceremony for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life. So we had a number of them out there. We only found 4 that would actually take the picture, but we did have an entire contingency, and we thank everyone who showed up for that. We also had, staying in people, we had the week of April 6th was National Healthcare Access Personnel Week. So not only are these professionals the first impression of SMH, but they also serve as key component to putting every healthcare visit in motion. Shown here are team members from the patient registration, insurance support, benefits coordination, financial resources, and scheduling. We just want to extend all of them a great thank you for everything they do and recognize them for that. Continuing in people, we have our Sarasota Memorial chose our 5-year-old Kayla to be our team ambassador for the junior diabetes walk for to cure diabetes last week, held at Lakewood Ranch, Main Street. Kayla was recently diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. She's young, but she's very quick to learn about the disease at SMH. She understands that diabetes is going to be a lot more responsibility and likes to call her insulin her monkey juice. So thank you to the SMH team and to Kayla's crew for being part of the effort to improve the lives of millions of people affected by type 1 diabetes. Sarasota Memorial is also proud to continue to support All Faiths Food Bank 2015 campaign against hunger, summer hunger. SMH kid-friendly snack drives of April 13 through the 24th, and donation locations in our Courtyard Cafe, 1700 South and Windows Cafeteria. Suggested donation items you can see in front of you, but we continue to try to support all Faiths Food Bank in every different way we can, and we think it's a critical component to what goes on in this community. We had a great reunion, our 2015 SMH, our NICU reunion this Saturday, May 2nd, immediately following the baby's walk at the J.D. Hamill Park, and just a couple of pictures from that. Going into the quality section, we have Sarasota Memorial's pediatric unit recently relocated to a completely renovated child and family friendly space. The 28-bed unit, specifically designed for young patients, features an inviting playroom with a saltwater aquarium, a music room, and a state-of-the-art treatment room. And Alex, we really appreciate everything that your organization's done to help support that. I am sure that if you want to go visit up there, we can arrange for a guide to take you back past our security and take a look at everything we do. Staying in quality and safety, Sarasota Memorial earned the Intersocietal Accreditation Commission's accreditation for adult transorthotic testing. The accreditation board commended us for demonstrating our facility's pursuit of excellence in field and endocrinology. Echocardiograph. Sorry, I completely got that wrong. Thank you. And thank you, Carol Ann. And less than 10% of our applicants receive accreditation on the first pass. So thank you to our Heart and Vascular team, and especially to Dr. Hardy Schwartz and the Echo and Vascular Lab Supervisor Amber Taylor for everything they did. As everyone knows, our trauma application was submitted prior to the April 1st deadline. I'm sorry? Oh, all right. Prior to the April 1st deadline, we were these are just a couple of pictures of all the binders that we submitted and boxed up and got up to Tallahassee for their review. So more to follow there. Continuing in the growth section, we had a great announcement last week from SMH and FSU about our residency program that we are launching. ABC 7 had great coverage on that, as well as SNN and the Herald Trib. And we are very excited about this. It'll be the first and only program of its kind between Tampa and Fort Myers, and the first MD residency program in our region. Southwest Florida, as we all know, is experiencing a physician shortage, and we expect it to worsen as our baby boomers age and our current physician workforce retires. This program should attract some of the brightest and best physicians to our area, and we're looking forward to having this getting going. And finally, we have our 1-year anniversary of our Bee Ridge location. So congratulations to our staff out at Bee Ridge. On April 1st, we celebrated its first anniversary. Our full year of operations, we've seen over 10,000 patients, which is about 17% more than we expected, and our patient satisfaction has been in the top 10% in the U.S. since day one. So congratulations to the team out there. And that's my report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions of David? If not, we'll move on. There's nothing on the consent agenda today. Do we have public comments? No public comments. Legal matters?
Nothing.
Thank you. Any other business for this body? If not, we are adjourned.
Trying to do you right,
Oh,
Bob.
I know you are, but I thought it'd be a normal.
Nicely crisp.
I know.
Donna told me right before the meeting.
You know how the birds just completely. Let's say it.
Well, you had all those 5-syllable words.
What's that? Yeah, I saw it. You know, Dick, was it? Yes.
Careful, Dick, you trip over that.
Thank you, though. Oh. You know, it's just some days just aren't your best days. Yeah.
Was it Tom said when he sat down?
Sometimes you would think I could actually review them.
Well, I kind of get that.
Let me get this out of the way. Holding everybody up.
Adventure Center.
David, could I talk you into buying a True D to run around down in Northport and help them?
We'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Talk with the team. Okay?
I'm not looking for Alex to buy one, but.
If there's anything of any importance in my mailbox, don't worry about it. And we leave for 3 weeks, so I'll see you in